Hello everyone! And we already spoke a lot about Titan Cameraman or Plunger Man possible comebacks, as both were teased by Boom to happen pretty much soon in the Skibidi Toilet series. But what if I'll tell you that all of this can be actually just a gimmick from Boom to make us think about a few characters' comebacks only? While in reality something much more unexpected can happen. So what if in this video I'll prove to you that we can soon witness the return of a totally surprising character, and his fate will just shock you too? And of course I'm talking about Skibidi Scientist. And you can ask me, but Iso, my bro, this guy was literally gone for ages at this point. What can possibly bring him back, and what would Boom even plan to do with him in terms of Skibidi Toilet plot? And if this really happens, would the scientist even join the Alliance considering what happened to him in episode 70? And well, in this video, I'll answer all of these questions and reveal just something insane to you. So get your tea and snacks ready and prepare for a crazy ride. And be sure to also give this video a like and subscribe to my channel where I make a lot of entertaining Skibidi Toilet content while you are waiting for the next episode to get released. Okay, so if you are subscribed now, let's continue. And let's start with the obvious thing first. Yes, we all pretty much witnessed the brutal and, rather bloody passing of Skibidi Scientist back in the end of episode 70, where the guy was pressed like a trash can by all three Titans of the Alliance, who were very mad at him. After all, within the same time, Skibidi Scientist became the reason for both the Dark Speakerman and Plungerman's passing. And before that, the Scientist was also responsible for countless losses and damages done not only to the Alliance's forces, but to the entire planet Earth itself. And we also know that Skibidi Scientist was an active worker and researcher in Alpha Hill's laboratory. That's why he was featured in the documents found in Skibidi Bunker in the second part of episode 70, which means that he could originally be a human being that was turned into a Skibidi toilet, just as the majority of military members, other scientists or workers in the Alpha Hills complex, as the virus then got spread all over the planet. But that's just one possibility. Because if you watched all my theory videos dedicated to G-Man's past and his whole story in Skibidi Toilet series, then you know that I also kind of support the idea that not only G-Man could be an astro toilet, which then decided to part ways with the faction and turn against them, but Skibidi Scientist as well. And what makes me think that it also can be pretty much possible is a subtle detail from episode 70 that I already referred to so many times. So check out the image of Skibidi Scientist on the document, which also features Astro Detainer. Do you see something really important? And well, I'm talking about the rotating metal circle detail behind Skibidi Scientist's head in this picture. And back when I analyzed episode 70 as a whole, I didn't really think much about this detail because Astro Toilets were just yet to show up and we weren't revealed their designs. But now, as we saw so many Astro Toilets, I see this detail behind the scientist's head very differently. Because it's almost identical to the rotating circle of the gigantic Impactor Astro Toilet, but only much smaller in size. And given that Skibidi Scientist was on the same document as Astro Detainer, and that he also closely worked with G-Man, who is 100% an Astro Toilet, I can conclude the following thing. So the first option is that Skibidi Scientist could be an Astro Toilet as well, but much smaller in ranks and lower in the hierarchy, who agreed to partner with G-Man after Astro Juggernaut rejected his proposal at first, and both of them left the Astro faction and fled on Earth. Or the second option is that Skibidi Scientist was actually one of the very first people to get turned into the closest being to Astro Toilet with the help of G-Man and the technologies and knowledge he stole before fleeing. Maybe he used to be a human scientist that got seduced by the power G-Man offered to him, similarly to what happened in the Skibidi Saga multiverse by Maxity, by the way. And as the experiment on the scientist proved to be successful, he later joined G-Man's team as his right-hand man and the most important member. And whatever Skibidi Scientist's origin truly was, it is no doubt that he played a really significant role in Jimmy's plan from the start, and thus his return could be more than desirable for him. But on the other hand, we have one little problem, and his name is the Secret Agent. Because contrary to Jimmy's plan, the Secret Agent could actually prevent the Skibidi Scientist's comeback as much as possible. Because from the same 70th episode, we got the idea that Skibidi Scientist was somehow connected to the Secret Agent at one point, and they even collaborated together. Although we still don't know for sure why it happened in the first place, and did G-Man even know about this? Although it's also possible that the Secret Agent didn't collaborate with the scientist at all, but just warned him that he'll be soon exiled from the facility that once belonged to the secret agent. And we know this information from Lucky Cameraman's flashback in Season 25. In any case, it's possible that if G-Man will actually be preparing Skibidi Scientist's comeback, it's going to be concealed for as long as possible. And now the most important question comes. How can this comeback be possible in the first place, considering that Skibidi Scientist was literally smashed into ungodly pieces? And that's where it's time for me to have fun. First of all, I already explained to you that either organically or artificially. But Skibidi Scientist was an astro toilet in his origin, even though he could be pretty much altered from the classic astro form. And that could explain his smaller size and different technological approach. And astro toilets' bodies are not that easy to destroy too, although we know that Skibidi Scientist literally lost his head after being battered up by Titan speakermen. So he's torn apart and heavily damaged, which means that he can come back only given the very specific circumstances. And now I'll describe to you what we can expect. First of all, it could be good old story with the backup copy of the scientist's persona, or to say it in simpler words, we could see the return of his organic clone. This plot twist is really beaten at this point, and it was extremely popular in lots of movies and video games, so why wouldn't Boom try it too? And let's not also forget the ending of Season 25, which revealed to us the legit possibility to transfer one's memories and mind into specific chips that can be later installed on different bodies. And I already talked about it a lot in my recent videos. And it was also shown on just an example of some random cameraman, while Skibidi Scientist is a much more important figure. So why wouldn't G-Man try to restore him at least partially with the usage of the opportunities to actually do so? So the scientist's consciousness could have been uploaded into computer, or an entirely new version of his robotic body could have been created. G-Man's squad, or to be more specific, Skibidi Kleiner already uses Skibidi Scientist's puppet as a tool for destruction. So, would it be that difficult for Jimmy to create an entirely different vessel for his former comrade and friend? I don't think so. But in case you don't really dig this opportunity, there is another one too, and it's the classic regeneration or mutation scenario. We already saw how many Skibidi Toilet characters regenerated or mutated completely after being defeated a countless number of times. I mean, just remember Mecha Scientist as an iconic example. So what if Skibidi Scientist had experimented on himself in secret? And he could have gotten special abilities to regenerate his body too. And after the regeneration, he could have gone full metal at this point and become Skibidi Cyborg or something like this. Or maybe he, or at least his consciousness, could have been rescued by some unknown entity. Maybe an unknown faction or a certain individual saved him after episode 70, similarly to how some characters disappear and return later. Okay, so let's imagine that Skibidi Scientist actually survived and came back either in his original body or in a completely new one. Doesn't really matter. What would he do next? Because the brother must have had quite a heated beef with the whole alliance considering the circumstances of his violent passing. And if Jimmy was actually able to forget the old quarrels and still united with the alliance, I am not sure I can say the same thing about Skibidi Scientist at all. I mean, he can actually be pretty significant for the alliance to grab, as he could help them a lot in advancing new cool technologies against astro toilets, or inventing neat experimental weapons or armor. But what if Skibidi Scientist just bluntly refuses to do so? What if even under G-Man's influence he'd just say, "Nah guys, I'm good, you can keep each other but not me. There's no way I'd join your club after everything that happened." And in case like this, what is actually next for Skibidi Toilet plot? Personally, I see several plot arcs that can occur after Skibidi Scientist's refusal to join the Alliance. And the first one is that Skibidi Scientist can actually play a role as some sort of anti-hero next, which means that he'd join neither of sides and would just do his own thing isolated both from his friends or enemies. But his goals might still align with the Alliance's plans at times, although his methods would also be rather questionable. It is possible that he might want some revenge against the Alliance, because after being destroyed in episode 70, he could hold a grudge against its agents and the Titans in particular. So instead of helping them directly, he might only assist in the war with astro toilets when it would benefit his personal goals. Or he could pull an even more unhinged move and start experimenting on both sides instead. By which I mean that he could still conduct really dangerous experiments, possibly even using the infected toilets or astro toilets as his test subjects. But he wouldn't share the same goals as the Alliance and create his own strain of virus, which would lead the Skibidi Toilet plot in the entirely different direction. What if he would actually wish to create his own faction? As he might not trust the Alliance or the Astro Toilets altogether, he could form his own rogue faction of modified Skibidi creatures or completely different species. It would be pretty weird to see, but also kind of cool. Or let's say he'd just have a really unstable morality and sense of personality after being revived, which wouldn't surprise me at all given what he had to go through. He could easily be a wild card, which means that sometimes he could actually help the Alliance against Astro Toilets, but other times would make risky or borderline unhinged decisions that would put everyone in danger. So the following scenario is pretty much possible generally. The Alliance realizes that it needs Skibidi scientists' help to counteract the Astro Toilet's power just as much as G-Man's. So the scientist gets revived in one way or another. And after his revival, the scientist starts behaving in a really strange manner, which would make the entire plot even more complicated it already is. Okay, but there is also another possibility on what might happen to Skibidi Scientist after his revival, and oh boy, it's even wilder than the first option. Because what if his grudge against the Alliance would be so strong that he would turn a full-fledged villain instead? He could become one of the greatest threats to both the Alliance and Astro Toilets altogether. And here's how it could happen. In case he gets revived, not by G-Man, but some other individual from different faction or an entirely different species, he would easily feel betrayed by his former comrades and not just the Alliance. And it would give him motivation to seek power in order to have revenge on literally everyone who let him down. And he might also decide that neither side deserves victory, so he's worked towards his own domination instead. And in order for him to achieve this, devilish plan, he could merge the scientific knowledge he already has with new Skibidi mutation theories. So he could use his knowledge and skills to create the ultimate Skibidi hybrids and make his own whole army full of super-evolved Skibidi monsters. Or what if he finds a way to corrupt the Alliance's agents' robotic bodies or hack the memory chips inside them, which would allow him to manipulate them and make them to turn against the Alliance. And as a cherry on top, he would start heavily experimenting on his own entity, which would literally turn him in Resident Evil boss wannabe or something like this. So he could turn into extremely powerful and nearly invincible Skibidi mutant, making him much harder to defeat this time. But eventually he would simply lose his sanity in this chase for more power. So let's imagine such a scenario. The Alliance starts receiving strange energy readings from some hidden laboratory where Skibidi Scientist was hiding. They find out that he's alive and well, but instead of joining them, he declares that he will evolve Skibidi Toilets into perfect beings and rule the entire world as he already invented a new type of Skibidi mutant race, which puts the Alliance into a position of fighting not only with Astro Toilets, but with the altered Astro Toilet, aka former G-Man's comrade as well, who's also gone completely mad. So if Boom really brings Skibidi Scientist back, it would be amazing because I'm sure that his return wouldn't be just a simple revival. But instead, we might see a complete transformation into something more dangerous. The scientist can turn into the ultimate wildcard, sometimes helping or sometimes interrupting the Alliance's plans and always pursuing his own goals. Or he can go full freaking villain mode instead, which would be even more interesting. And what do y'all think about all of this? And that was all for today. Write in the comments what you personally think about my theory. And be sure to also subscribe to my channel not to miss my new videos to keep yourselves updated while you are waiting for episode 78 to get released. And that was me, ISOTOILET. See ya!